Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. So that's got to make you happy. Zach Osterman's with us from Indy Star. That should make you even happier yet. Zach, how are you, sir? How's your week going?
It's going well. How about you?
Better than watching some of this Open, the British Open, and these guys are down in these bunkers. I'm like, holy smokes. I don't know how this guy just got out, but because he was up against the wall and he did. So they're amazing. These guys hit some amazing shots, but it's been a good week. The weather's been incredible. There's no humidity. It's been awesome. Just enjoying the summer. But we've got football right around the corner. Basketball's finishing up. We've got the Peach Jam going on and all that stuff. The Peach Jam starts in 2 days and everything else that follows. I saw Dustin's piece in regard to Donovan McCulley, which a lot of us have known that for a while, and then it came out, and so Donovan McCulley getting moved to wide receiver. We've got Big Ten Media Day, football media days coming up a week from Tuesday, so it's here. There's a lot going on. It never really stopped this summer, Zach. This is one of the summer. It kind of never really stopped.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it has felt that way a little bit, kind of in the ultimate sort of reckoning. I think there's always, listen, there is always an extent to which, while summer is quieter in terms of, actual events happening, that, there's still a lot of stuff that there's still a lot of stuff that we all have to kind of talk about and write about, et cetera. But this has been an unusually busy summer because of, I think, just a lot of things kind of moving in probably moving sort of in the same direction, but in different ways. If you understand what I'm saying, like NIL realignment.
Sometimes faster. It's like it's picked up speed because of all these things coming together.
Yeah, it's sort of like when two weather systems hit. They sort of combine and get bigger. I think the reality is that a lot of these issues all kind of stem from the same desire for reform and change in college athletics. But yeah, when they start to collide, and I think we are reaching a real point of just kind of change in we've been seeing a lot of this coming. I'm not making my point well, forgive me, but we have been seeing a lot of this on the horizon for a while. We knew for a while that something like NIL was probably going to wind up moving into college athletics. Conference realignment is nothing new. And by the way, it's not even nothing new in the last 15 years. Penn State joining the Big Ten in the early 90s was a big deal. The ACC raiding the Big East and effectively, starting the slow death of the old Big East in the 2000s was a big deal. But the point is, I think a lot of these issues have kind of been building in their own little corners, and now they're starting to meet and merge and grow even larger and move even faster, as you say. And it has been a busy summer in some ways. It'll all settle down a little bit once everyone's distracted by the games they have to play. So.
Yeah, well, and we haven't seen much of that on the football side from Indiana. That's been a secret. But yeah, the USC, UCLA joining the Big Ten, of course, took on just a gigantic chunk of news. And then you've got the other conferences. They're left to do. Is there going to be a Big 12, Pac-12 merger? What are they going to do? What's going to become of the ACC? Because they're so weak in football. They have some big basketball programs, but there are a lot of questions involving college athletics, where it's going to continue to go. And I don't know. Obviously, I have no idea. I don't think the Big Ten is done. Is 20 the ultimate number, the ultimate stopping number, do you think?
I don't really know what the ultimate stopping number is. And I think we had a conversation about this maybe not, sort of right after everything, which was, I think we literally talked like 12 hours after everything happened. I think, to my mind, there's two parallel tracks here. One is Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is its own thing. There is no other Notre Dame out there. Like before all this started last year, you had Texas, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, USC, UCLA probably just about fit in that category, particularly because they were in Los Angeles and because they're a state school, which USC is, and I think people forget that USC is a private school. But those 4 or 5 schools were the big ones that weren't affiliated with one of the top 2 conferences, because it has for a while been the Big Ten, the SEC, and then everyone else. Then Texas and Oklahoma go to the SEC, so then it's just the 3. Then 2 of the 3 go to the Big Ten. There is not another brand in any way you want to discuss it, from whatever direction you TV markets, fan engagement, brand strength, there is not another brand in college sports that is as valuable or even close to as valuable right now as Notre Dame, that's not already affiliated with the Big Ten or the SEC, either as a full member or a pending member. So Notre Dame is off to its, to one side, essentially. Beyond that, I actually think really the Big Ten and the SEC, the sensible move may be to figure out what the next step is in the playoff. Like, and when I say that, I don't just mean expansion. I'm not just saying like, oh, well, we had 4 teams, now we have 8, or we had 4 teams, now we have 12. But you've got powerful people in college athletics talking openly about just removing whatever control the NCAA had left over college football, Division I college, FBS college football, to be very clear, not FCS, not Division II, but FBS college football, and just moving it under some sort of new sort of governing structure, probably built around the playoff, because the playoff is already there. The playoff is a physical, tangible thing that exists. It has administrative capacity, and you can just build it out. You've got Gene Smith talking about that, the AD at Ohio State, maybe the most influential athletic director in college football. George Kliavkoff said something similar about it, the commissioner of the Pac-12. When these people are talking openly about this, it's not just something that maybe you're floating in conversations or you're willing to give to a reporter on a condition of anonymity, but like something you are saying out in the open with your name attached. That should tell you the direction that this is moving. And I think if you're the Big Ten, the SEC, and I'm not saying I'm smart enough to know exactly what it looks like, but I think you need to sit down and figure out what the future of the playoff is, not just in terms of saying, okay, how many teams are we going to, how many spots are we going to go to? What's the format going to be? But like physically, what is the playoff going to be in 5 years? Is it just going to be an expanded version of what it is now? Or is it effectively going to be a governing structure that runs college football? And if it is, what role is everybody going to need to play there? The schools, the conferences, the TV partners, all of that. How does that get built out? That's an incredibly complex thing. Now, you have a blueprint. Obviously, you've got years of the NCAA and rulemaking bodies and different things like that, and how to go through all these different processes. But you got to build all that out if you're going to do it. We'll see if they actually do it. But they're, talking about it so openly suggests that it's no longer just sort of it's just idle discussion. So you got to figure out what that is. Then that's when I think you sit down as, in your own individual rooms, in your own, conference HQs or whatever. And you start asking the question of, well, then what's the best future for us? Is it 16? Is it 20? Is it 24? Is it basically turning college football into 2 super conferences, a la, like a metastasized NFL? What is the best, or is, have we reached a point of essentially sort of maximum capacity, and everything from here would just be largesse? Everything from here would just be dead weight, and we're just going to stick at 16. We'll let all the other, schools and conferences sort of figure things out around us. And as much as they have the political will and the political clout to grab a seat at the table, we'll allow them some of that, but ultimately we're going to stay in charge. I think, and forgive me, that was a long answer, but it's a detailed discussion. I think the next step is find a way to figure out what the future of the playoff is.
And I agree that there's going to be changes, and the NCAA, I do not expect to have a part in that. But the NCAA is only an extension of the universities, the presidents and chancellors, which I assume this will be the same thing. But they're going to have to govern. Who's going to be the watchdog? Um, who's going to make what's it's? I don't know if it's even possible to do anymore. But
cans are on the. My son pulls these out of the trash. He calls them his rocket boosters. I just realized that they wound up on your show. So
that's all right.
I really just need to empty the recycling in my office, but I don't know how, that's probably a month's worth, but he pulls them out because he likes building things with trash. So
you drink those? I can't drink that stuff, man.
Yeah, my wife and I like them. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I just have a recycling bin up in my office that I never empty out. And he finds it and starts rooting through it. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to explain why there are a bunch of empty LaCroix cans sitting next to me.
I'm pro recycling, baby, always. But yeah, there's going to have to be a watchdog. And so are you going to have the fox watching the hen house? Kind of a situation. I know that's not going to be how it's set up, but if the SEC is not exactly afraid to bend lines, I mean, not that other teams aren't, but obviously it seems a little more rampant in the SEC, and they're far and far ahead of the game of that. But what's going to become of teams like Rutgers? Is it worth it to the Big Ten to pay a team $100 million to be in the league? Is the Big Ten getting that value back?
Well, I mean, here's the thing I would say, because there is also there are a lot of parallel discussions happening right now, and there are a lot of theories from smart people you can find out there. One of them is this idea of some sort of super league, of some sort of do just the best college football brands in the country get together, lop off, forgive me, but lop off all the Indianas and Purdue's and Rutgers's and Vanderbilt's and Ole Miss's, and just the people that ultimately, the schools that never compete in that conversation, and just go do their own thing. Number one, as a soccer fan, I listened for 25 years as European soccer talked about something like this. And then last year, they announced it out of the blue, out of nowhere. And the backlash from fans, players, managers, sponsors was so strong, it didn't make it 4 days.
Wow.
Before they just dropped the whole thing. So
they wanted to go away from the champions in the Premier League.
The best 20 teams in Europe just wanted to go do their own thing. They wanted to basically leave their leagues behind. They wanted to go to the closed shop and just play their own games. Essentially, I don't remember all the details, but the point is, they didn't make it a week.
Yep.
And that's only one example, but it's the best approximation we have. And I suspect that if Ohio State and Alabama suddenly just said 24 of us are going off to do our own thing forever, I suspect you would see something similar in this country, maybe even from those fans. Because the other thing I would say, and listen, TV money always talks, but we are also reaching a point where basically everyone has enough money and is going to have more than enough money. For example, does Michigan want to sign up for that if they're going to go 4-8? You know what I mean? Oregon right now might be looking at its options and saying, we can position ourselves as the class of this new Big 12, Pac-12 merger that kind of stretches from the Pacific Northwest through the Rocky Mountains all the way down into Texas. And we are sort of the frontier conference, or whatever you want to say. And we're the marquee brand in it. We're going to win it every year. We're going to recruit the heck out of the West Coast, and we're going to go down to Texas and get all these athletes and all these linemen, and we're going to be great. We're going to be like the best of the rest. Does Oregon want to go in there when they're going to go 3-9 every year? When suddenly we build a 24-team super league? Because at the end of the day, when you remove, and again, I'm not trying to be flippant, but when you remove the schools like Indiana or Purdue or Vanderbilt or, out west, Cal, Arizona at times, whatever it's been, you remove the schools that they give you the easy wins sometimes.
Yes.
When they're not good, the schools that are not hard for you to beat, suddenly you go from 10-2 to 6-6. And if you go somewhere where it's only you And Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, FSU, Miami, whatever. 6-6 can turn into 3-9 really fast.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't think there is a world where you see those schools removed. What I do think is possible, again, to go back to the and I've been toying with writing something about this, and I don't know exactly how to present it as anything other than my own 10-pod idea. But this conversation makes me feel like I should put it down on the page somehow. Going back to the European soccer conversation, for people who don't know, there is something called the Champions League. It used to be called the European Cup. For years, from like the early 60s to the early 90s, you could only qualify for the European Cup if you won your league. And then you would go in, and during your domestic league season, you would also play in this other competition periodically where you'd play other teams from Europe. Around the time they reformed England's first division into the Premier League and started selling TV rights for money that at that time people would never have imagined broadcasters would pay for live sports, UEFA got together, the Union of European Footballing Associations, which runs the European Cup, got together and said, well, what if we built out the European Cup, included more teams, made it more of a made for TV event? How much money could we get out of it? They started calling it the Champions League. It is this sort of sidecar competition now. It is the Champions League final is often, if not one of the most watched single sporting events every single year across the globe. It's a huge deal. In theory, anyone can get in. In theory, as long as you finish high enough in your domestic league in a given season, the next year you will qualify for the Champions League. In reality, the way it's set up, the way it makes the rich richer and kind of locks everybody out, means really it's reserved for a small group of clubs. I wonder if there's a future where there is some sort of sidecar competition to the college football season where, in theory, Indiana could qualify, or Purdue. And I'm picking on Indiana and Purdue. I don't mean to, but,
I agree with you.
There are local teams. In theory, Indiana or Purdue could raise up, have a great season, qualify for the next season's whatever we call it, the College Football Champions League. In reality, nearly all the time, it's the same teams. It's the same small group of teams competing at the top end of their conferences, like always, and therefore competing for those spots. And then when you get into, and when you look at the Champions League, when you get into the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the final every year, it's mostly the same teams. There aren't a lot of interlopers. And I think, this would wind up that way too. I think you can make a boatload of money off it. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but it would give everybody a little bit of something, because at the end of the day, there are still hundreds of thousands of people that will watch IU Michigan State, really millions of people that will watch IU play Michigan State, given at least a small amount of an illusion of the idea that it might matter, to a national title conversation somewhere. You don't just leave that money on the table. What you do is you find a way to keep making that money while also monetizing this other fat brand over here. And that's where I think we could be. Like, I think that to me is where the future is. But I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't know how you build it out. I don't know how you make it work in college football the way you can make it work in professional soccer. They're two completely different sports for a variety of reasons: player safety and welfare, amateur, at least for the moment, obviously, versus professional, etc. But I think that makes a lot more sense to me. And I'm basically reading out a book to you that I've written in my own head here. Forgive me.
No, I agree. I thought, since I've learned, and a lot of it has come from the conversations with you, but once I learned and got straight the Premier and the Champions League and how it worked, and watching Ted Lasso kind of helped with that. But seriously, I've been thinking the same thing. I'm like, is there there's no other way to do it. It's almost like going back to the Division I and Division 1A, Division I AA, which is the old FCS. But there's because there is a line of demarcation. There will be, and I agree. I think that they should do it. It's going to give those teams incentive to continue to strive to be better and not stay if they're in the quote unquote college football Champions League, to strive to get to the Premier League. So I think that I don't know how to figure it out either, but I think that is, I don't know what else you can do because there is never going to be a way where Indiana is on par in football with Ohio State or Notre Dame or Alabama. That
But
ain't it just
ultimately,
ain't
Ohio
happening.
State, Notre Dame, and Alabama want the payoff that you get inventory wise from an Ohio State Indiana game.
Oh yes,
they don't want to have to. They don't want to have to replace that with Ohio State Auburn, where
right.
Ohio State
I agree.
probably win that game, but it would be a lot harder, and maybe they wouldn't. And then one year suddenly Ohio State is 7-5. Like, you know, the analogy somebody used to me is like the Pirates have to lose 100 games so the Yankees can win 100 games. Baseball's never kicking the Pirates out. In theory, both teams have an equal chance of winning the World Series. We know in practice that's not the case most of the time, but each serves a purpose in the ecosystem. Now, the other thing I would say too is the stuff we're talking about, and I don't know if I use this analogy on or this reference on you or somebody else, but like, you know, if you remember that movie Apollo 13, the Tom Hanks movie, there's a point where they're arguing in the capsule about what's going wrong, and Tom Hanks says, like, we're on step 8 and you're talking about step 493. Like right now, what we are talking about is it's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen. I would suspect something like this or a super league or something of that nature is going to happen. People are going to try to do it. I would be a little bit surprised if they tried to do it, for example, within the lifespan of the pending Big Ten media rights deal, unless it's a lot longer than I expect it to be. But like, the point is, we're not going to wake up tomorrow and somebody's going to be like, this is the new order. There are a lot of steps between where we are now and this, but I do think this may be where we are going.
I agree with you. Zach Osterman, what is next for you, man?
Writing more about NIL. I can't. I'm trying to get out from under all this. And then obviously, as you said, we got media days in a week and a half, and then summer's, you know, basically over. It's just going to be hot work. So
it is a struggle, baby. But we're glad to have you, and Indiana fans are they're lucky to have you as well. Make sure you give Zach a follow at the Indy Star. If you're not a subscriber, you should be. I am, and we got to keep local papers alive, folks. Zach, I can't appreciate you enough, brother. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend with the kiddos.
Hey, you too, Jim. Thanks for having me as always.